Welcome back to the Jaco Report. First, a programming note. Senator Claire McCaskill, the Democratic incumbent here in Missouri, had been scheduled to join us this week, as I told you last week. McCaskill's office canceled that interview, saying there was a scheduling conflict. We're disappointed, but we hope to reschedule the interview with Senator McCaskill in the very near future. As you know by now, Congressman and Republican U.S. Senate candidate Todd Akin's comments on the Jaco Report last week touched off a bit of a national firestorm. It also launched a major effort by the Republican Party to get Akin off the senatorial ballot. I had asked Congressman Akin about whether a woman had a right to have an abortion in case of rape. He famously answered that a woman's body has a way of shutting itself down and preventing pregnancy in the case of, quote, legitimate rape, and at that point, everything else. Congressman Akin said in the interview, from reworking the Voting Rights Act of 1975 to repealing the 17th Amendment that allows the popular election of U.S. senators, all that went right out the window. Akin became a target for Democrats and for Republicans. GOP presidential nominee Mitt Romney and vice presidential nominee Congressman Paul Ryan both asked Akin to quit the Senate race. The Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee says it will not give Akin any money. Karl Rove's Crossroads Super Political Action Committee pulled all of its anti-Claire McCaskill ads out of Missouri. Former Missouri Republican Senators John Ashcroft, John Danforth, and Jim Talent have asked Akin to drop out, and Akin refuses, despite his comments threatening to overshadow the Republican National Convention, which, of course, opens in Tampa tomorrow. Joining us on today's program is one of the people who thinks Akin should leave. He's John Danforth, former Missouri Attorney General, former United States Senator, and former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Great to have you back. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Charles.
So, before we get to why you would like to see Todd Akin not on the ballot, once you, Sunday or Monday, when you read about all of this, what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
Disaster.
Really?
Just total disaster, yeah. And all these, I had not seen the show, but I got a lot of emails, and I thought, what is this? You know, I mean, this is terrible. And what makes it terrible is that not only that it's wrong and insulting, but also that it's such a distraction from the real question before our country.
Which is? Which
is that we now have a $16 trillion national debt. We've got an economic program designed by President Obama, but strongly supported by Senator McCaskill, which is wrong, which is leading us in the wrong direction. It has not worked. And not only hasn't it worked, we still have very high unemployment, but it's created major problems for America down the road. You can't have a $16 trillion national debt without having serious problems. For example, next year, the cost of the entitlement program, Social Security, Medicare, and so on, plus interest on the national debt, will consume 100% of federal revenue. There'll be nothing left over for anything else. Nothing, for example, for national defense. So to provide for the national defense of the United States, we will have to go to the People's Republic of China, hat in hand, and ask for money to defend ourselves. And it's a terribly weak position for our country to be in. And the question we should be asking to President Obama and Senator McCaskill is, what do you intend to do about this? What's your program?
I want to get back to that in a moment, because that is obviously the issue of the day that is facing us. In terms of Akin, though, here's a basic question. You may think his comments were deplorable, but he wasn't calling for anything illegal or unconstitutional. You may disagree with him, but a plurality of the Republican voters in the Missouri Republican primary voted for the man. It can be argued that political primaries have produced weak candidates who have been distractions from the major issues before in our history. And they've stayed on the ballot. What compelling reason do you and other Republicans have to say, look, it was a mistake to nominate Todd Akin and he should be off the ballot? I mean, a lot of people say, but the people have spoken. How can you overrule that?
Well, it's not just that he's a weak candidate, and he certainly is, but he has marched the entire Republican Party into the woods. I mean, that's what he has done. We have to, not just from the standpoint of the Republican Party, but really it's our duty to the country to focus on the one major question before the American people. And it's a very, very difficult question. And it's, what are we going to do about this debt? What's the program going forward? The reason we have such costly government is that it's popular. I mean, people like government programs. As a matter of fact, Senator McCaskill's campaign is going from one group to the next, boasting about the money that she's gotten for that group or will get in the future. So, you know, what kind of country have we become? Is it just a matter of what's in it for me and how much can I get from Uncle Sam? And is the gravy train going to continue to roll? Because if that's it, we are going to become weaker and weaker as a country. And the issue that has to be presented to the American people is, do we want something more in our country than just whatever we can get from our government today?
But Congressman Akin has been in the United States House of Representatives for 12 years, 6 terms. Before that, he was in the Missouri legislature. The people who vote for him know precisely what they're getting. His beliefs are not a secret. He said when he was running for Senate, the first thing he said was God had spoken to him and said he should run. If this was not a mystery to the people who voted for him, and they voted for him anyway, is it really proper for anyone to come in and say, well, you should have really nominated a more serious candidate so this guy belongs off? I mean, by that standard, you could probably get rid of most of the primary winners in this country.
Well, how did he get this nomination in the first place? He got the nomination because Senator McCaskill ran something like $2 million worth of TV commercials promoting Todd Akin.
You think that's what did it?
I do. He is the creature of Senator McCaskill. Now Senator McCaskill is saying, wait a second, now that I put this guy in there, don't anybody try to take him out. So, I mean, it really is ridiculous. But, you know, why? Because I don't think anybody could have conceived of such an off-the-wall, ridiculous comment as he made on your show. So I think you're underestimating yourself as a newsmaker.
But
I mean, you really created something.
But aren't you underestimating the voters? Maybe they knew about all this. Maybe they said, okay, we agree with him on these issues.
Who would have known about this rape comment? Who could have guessed that?
But
I mean, it is so weird and off the wall.
But my understanding is the platform that's going to be in the Republican Party at your convention next week basically doesn't call for many, if any, exceptions to abortion, including rape. It seems to me that isn't Congressman Akin basically in the mainstream of what your party says it believes on that subject?
I think most Republicans have been pro-life. There's no doubt about that. My view of what's in a party platform, I've never written a party platform, read a party platform, or felt bound by a party platform. It's so much waste paper, and Governor Romney all but said that. I mean, it's just party platforms are really zilch. They're not worth anything. I think this has become boilerplate in the past. I'm sorry it's in there. I mean, I can't imagine seriously saying that there should be permissible abortion in the case of rape. Of course there should be.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll take a pause right there, and we'll come back in just a moment. We'll be back with more from former Senator John Danforth after these messages. Please don't go away. Welcome back to the Jaco Report as we continue our conversation with former U.S. Senator John Danforth. Senator, you said that Todd Akin being on the ticket is a distraction, that he should be replaced, that he's taking attention away from what you feel is the most important issue, which is the ballooning national debt and America's fiscal crisis. And yet, you wrote a book about this sort of thing. You wrote a couple of op-eds, one for the New York Times back in 2005, where you talked about the evangelical wing of your party having essentially taken it over. Isn't Todd Akin sort of the culmination of that? Here's a man who says the Almighty spoke directly to him and told him to run. He says all of his decisions are based on scripture and biblical literalism. I mean, it would seem that Todd Akin is almost the poster child for the kind of thing you were writing about when you worried about the Republican Party.
Charles, there are a variety of positions on the social issues within the Republican Party, but there is one thing that all Republicans agree on, and it has to do with the cost and the weight of the federal government. All Republicans are in agreement on this. And I think whatever the concerns expressed in that book were, I think they've been, in a way, overcome by events. And the events have been the crisis mode that Obama has put us in. I mean,
because of the debt.
Because of the debt and what goes with that and what goes with his program. For example, Medicare. I mean, Medicare is going broke in about a decade. And Obama says, well, Congressman Ryan has a plan with regard to Medicare, and it will end Medicare as we know it. Well, Medicare as we know it is going broke. Medicare, if we don't do anything about it, is going to go under and will not be there for people who are in their 40s and their 50s right now. It won't be there. And the question to put to Obama and to Senator McCaskill is, what do you plan to do about it? What is your plan other than criticizing anybody with a plan? And I think that the Republicans, and particularly with the leadership of Governor Romney and Congressman Ryan, has been the responsible party in this. We must address the debt. We must address the entitlement programs. And by the way, we should at least insist from Obama and from McCaskill, when you say you want more taxes from the American people, how much more do you want? How much more do you need? And is there any maximum percentage that a person should be expected to give to the federal government?
But is there...
These, by the way, are questions I'm hoping that you will ask Senator McCaskill when she comes on your show.
I've been taking notes in my head. Meantime, you don't think Todd Akin is the proper person to articulate these kinds of concerns?
No. I can't imagine anybody who's gotten us. He not only has gotten himself lost in the woods, he's gotten everybody lost in the woods. Think of the distraction. I mean, Obama's strategy is to avoid the issue. That's his campaign strategy. His campaign strategy is don't talk about the economy, don't talk about the mess I've made, don't talk about the long-term consequences of the debt, don't talk about how to fix Medicare, bash Republicans, but stay on these kind of off-the-wall issues. For example, who could have imagined that at a time of $16 trillion national debt, the two big issues before the American people, by the Democrats and in the media, the two big issues are how many years of tax returns a candidate should release and this whole issue of rape and abortion. I mean, it is just amazing to me that with the country in real peril, we get on this sidetrack. And I think what's happened with Akin is he's propelled us on this sidetrack, and it serves people like Obama and McCaskill beautifully.
What are the consequences, you think, if Akin stays in this race? What happens?
One, he will lose. I mean, he's not going to win.
No doubt about that in your mind.
Zero doubt. He's got no chance of winning. Secondly, he is tarring the Republican Party. He is making in the eyes of women, he's making Republicans in general look as though they're against women. We are not. We've got to disavow this man for that reason, among others. So, yeah, I think he's a disaster.
Is there a growing gulf, though, between people in the Republican Party, such as yourself, and whatever one wants to call them, grassroots, evangelicals, the Tea Party movement, whatever, people who may be new to the political game, pardon me, and kind of know what they feel and know what they believe, and Todd Akin speaks to them in some ways on a grassroots level. Is that concerning, or do you think he essentially speaks to no one?
No, he must have some audience. I mean, there must be some people out there. I just don't think there are very many. I mean, this past Thursday, I was down in Springfield, where Congressman Ryan, our vice presidential candidate, was appearing, and I spoke to dozens and dozens of Republicans. All of them wanted this guy out of the race.
Everybody.
Every one of them. Nobody wants him in. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some people, he's listening to somebody, I guess.
Do you think
it's just he doesn't have any chance.
Is there any hope of him running a, quote, insurgent campaign with an army of dedicated evangelical foot soldiers and maybe a couple or $3 million from some Christian conservative groups? I mean, would that help? Could one run a campaign like that with someone like Akin and conceivably be elected, or do you think he's unelectable no matter what the circumstances?
Totally unelectable. No chance.
So if he stays in, that gives, in your mind, the Senate seat back to Claire McCaskill.
Yep.
And does this end up altering history if you guys lose don't gain control of the Senate by one vote?
You know what? I think it's more than one vote in the Senate. It's more than even control of the Senate. It's that this whole business of what to do about our economy and the relationship between government and the American people is a very profound issue, and it's a very difficult one. And it's hard for responsible people to articulate in a persuasive way, because the other side just says, dish out the dough. You know, we're here with the money. Let the good times roll for as long as they last. Forget about our children, forget about our grandchildren, dish out the dough and get through the next election. And that's been a very successful campaign stunt for a long, long time. And it's very difficult to win the argument. But I believe if we have the opportunity to go to the American people and explain the consequences of this program of running up the debt, running up the bill, having the entitlement programs become unsustainable for the future, what we're doing to our children, what we're doing to our grandchildren, I believe if we could go to the American people and say, all right, do you want to try to address this in a responsible way, or is it just let the good times roll? I think most people would say we are willing to do what's right. I mean, when Kennedy said that we will pay any price and bear any burden for the defense of liberty, I think that the American people would say, yes, we will do it, we will do what's right. But what's happening from Obama and his allies, like McCaskill, is they are not asking for any price or any burden being paid by anyone except they think 1% of the population can carry the load for the whole country, which is mathematically impossible.
Former Senator John Danforth. Senator, a pleasure as always. Thank you for coming in, sir.